Okay, hello, everybody there. Good evening, good evening. Let's try this again here and see what we can figure out here. Hang on 1 second. Okay, what is this? You're welcome, Cody. Okay, so let's see here live. All right, Mig, good evening. How are you? Christian, good evening. How are you? Can you see everything okay? It looks like we're starting to get some stuff here. Perfect. Thank you, Christian. Appreciate that. All right. Well, now that I know everything is working, let's get to it, shall we? I do see here that we've got a little bit of a latency issue. It looks like, or lag. Okay. All right. It looks like I think we got everything back now. Monty, good evening. Rich. Okay. We can do so, Rich. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's get the show on the road, shall we? And welcome in, everybody, to the Last Row Podcast, a fan's perspective on sports. It's Brian here inside the ARM Media Solutions Studios on this Monday, June the 22nd, 2026. Hope you are well, hope you're happy, hope you're healthy wherever it is you are joining us from tonight. Whether that is on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you so much for doing so. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for liking the show, for following, for subscribing. Make sure you leave us a rating, okay? That way we know what you think. That way we can tailor the show better for you because this is what the fans want. This is a fan's perspective on sports. It's real talk, real fans, real talk, front row to it all. So, good evening. If you are following us on social media, thank you so much. You can do so on X or Twitter, however you would like to call it, at Last Row Podcast. Make sure you check us out there. You can also check us out on TikTok and or TikTok Live at last.row.podcast. Make sure you check out our website, www.lastrowpodcast.com. That is where you can find links to all of our wonderful subscribers and all of our wonderful sponsors. And we can continue to bring you the best content that we can. All right, so couple little things here, a few programming notes, real quick, if I may. Um, I have been absent for a few days because of various things. I will tell you right here and now that I have a major family situation happening this week, and my goal is to be here every night. So come tomorrow night and Wednesday, we're going to have the NBA draft coverage. Okay, so we're going to be here for that. Thursday night is where it might get a little dicey. Okay, I am planning on being here unless something unforeseen happens. So I'm planning on being here on Thursday. So my goal is to be here the rest of the week for you. So just as an FYI, in case if one night we're not here, you know something has gone awry. But tomorrow night and Wednesday night, we're going to have NBA draft coverage. We will be live tomorrow night, starting between 6:30 and 7:30 Central Standard Time. Now, if you are with us right now on TikTok and TikTok Live, make sure you share us. Make sure you share everything. So, let's talk here, if we can, for the next few minutes about the NBA draft because news is breaking as we're coming on the air. Lots of news, in fact. So, Julius Randle and the number 28 pick in the draft to the Brooklyn Nets in a 3-team deal that will send Nick Claxton to the Chicago Bulls per Shams. That's just about 15 minutes ago. I will tell you that there are other things happening behind the scenes. I believe, and this is just me, and I don't know anything at this point, okay? So hear me when I say that. But I truly believe that this will get the Bulls into a position to trade potentially the 15th pick and potentially move up. Now, there are rumors circulating right now. They're trying to get up and get either pick 5 or 6. There's going to be a lot that has to happen in order for that to happen. But per Casey Johnson from the Chicago Sports Network, longtime Bulls reporter, covered the Bulls for a number of years. He says, quote, Bryson Graham spoke of creative ways to use cap space at his introductory news conference. Bulls now are set to land a big man who's played at least 69 games in 4 straight seasons and has averaged almost 2 blocks in 380 career games. Can't be finalized until free agency moratorium ends, but I will say this much right here and now. It's a good move. It's a good move for the Bulls. They've got a big man, not necessarily a big-named big man, but a guy that they can absolutely, rely upon to be a rim protector. And look, with new head coach Tiago Splitter, he values defense. We know that. That was evident from his opening press conference. Tiago Splitter, as a defensive-minded head coach, did a phenomenal job with everything that they were trying to do in Portland, and was thrust into a really bad situation there. So, my thought process is this. If this gets the Bulls closer to an opportunity to trade and get back into the top 10, maybe it's Josh Giddey, maybe it's one of your next year's picks, I don't know. But if the Bulls want to improve their roster dramatically, if they can't get to 5 or 6 and get Keaton Vogler from Illinois, I think the next best option is going to be Ade from Michigan, the big man, the 7'3" big man. And the reason why I say that is, look, you can absolutely get a frontline starter with, and I will just say this, I'm seeing reports tonight that are suggesting that potentially Caleb Wilson may not be there at 3 or at 4. He may go 3. I'm also seeing Cameron Boozer falling to the Bulls. That's a big rumor right now. And I'll be honest with you, if that happens, I'm not going to be upset about it. I think Boozer is by far one of the best, if not the best player in this draft. In terms of a forward, if you will. But I also want the Bulls to be smart about things. I don't know necessarily if the Bulls need to look at various packages to, free up cap space and because they don't need it. They've got a ton of cap room right now. Minnesota needed to free up significant salary with Julius Randle, and that gives them an opportunity to sign Ayo Dosunmu. Now look, reports have said Dosunmu is open to returning to Chicago. I personally think Ayo wants to come back to Chicago. It's home. It's where he's comfortable. The Nets get a big-time all-star, 2-time NBA, all-NBA forward, in Julius Randle. Chicago gets part of its cap space taken up here by an athletic center they still have $30 million left in cap room. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal for the Bulls. And I'm wondering now if this would allow them to free up an opportunity to get rid of Josh Giddey. I don't believe the Bulls gave up anything. To be honest, it sounds like Minnesota sent Julius Randle and the 28th to Brooklyn. I mean, the Bulls would have to have given up something here, but it doesn't show. It doesn't, at least at this point, it's not telling me what they had to give up. Maybe cash? Maybe? Monty, I'll be honest, I don't know. It doesn't say. Shams has not reported anything on that, and I haven't seen anything from the Bulls beat reporters yet on this. Okay, Elias Schuster, who works in the Chicago area. He's a publisher for the Bulls on SI. Previously with Bleacher Nation, he says, wow, Bulls grab a big man in Nick Claxton on draft night eve. Has 2 years on his contract left at a combined $44.4 million. I don't know if they gave anything up. They may have just been a third team to help take on the contract. Look, I'm hopeful that the Bulls somehow or another make a big move, okay? And what I mean by big move is this. I don't want them to give up 4, okay? That's obviously what I don't want. What I do want is for the Bulls to make a move to get back into the top 10 if possible. And so for the Bulls, for me, I want to see them move back up. And I think that, that's right, Cody. Yeah, and that's what I speculated, Monty, was that they were just used to absorb Claxton, which the Bulls have the opportunity to do. They get a big man that's got contractual control, and they address one of their needs. And I'm not hating this by any means. I also think that, look, if Josh Giddey is available, and there are teams like Minnesota or who else have I seen? Minnesota has been one. Phoenix is another. That are interested in taking on Josh Giddey, absolutely I'm making that deal. I am absolutely making that deal. And Bobby Marks just tweeted out here just a moment ago from ESPN that, again, because the Bulls are absorbing the cap room or the cap space for Claxton, they are the trade can't be finalized until July 6th, but he's going to be a Bull. And I'll just be honest with you. I'm gonna just follow me here if you can, please. I'm going to take a look here at what we're looking at in terms of statistics for Claxton and to see. And let's see here. So 12 points a game this past season, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 57% from the field from Georgia, 6'11", 27 years old. Regular season stats so far in his career, he shot almost 62% from the field. He's averaged almost 8 rebounds a game. Free throw shooting it leaves a little bit to be desired. Blocks, he's averaged as a career block almost 2 blocks a game, and averages 10 points, almost 11 points a game. That's not a bad pickup for them. That's not a bad pickup for the Bulls. Now, could they get, somebody else and really make this cook? Absolutely. Absolutely they could. But look, I'm not upset by Nick Claxton. Do I think that Claxton has the opportunity to start for Chicago? Absolutely I do. Now, if you got somebody in the draft that's a big man that could either start for you or be your backup, whether that's at 15, whether that's at 38 or 56, look, I'm all about it. Look, this draft for the Bulls is about rebranding. The old regime is gone. Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, they're gone. And good riddance to them. The fact that Bryson Graham is looking to remake this roster right away, not willing to hold on to pieces, that's why I think, as much as people don't think so, that's why I think Giddey is available. I believe that Josh Giddey is absolutely available for trade. And if the price is right, or the team is right, then I think that more importantly, the Bulls have a really good opportunity to get themselves in a winnable situation right away. And I hope that this is I'm hopeful that this is a big deal for Chicago. And I'm hoping that the Bulls have the opportunity now, if they can get Giddey, if somehow or another they can get Giddey, or get rid of Giddey, they move up and they can take Keaton Vogler. And then at 15, or if they have to trade 15 and Giddey to get back in, fine. But then at 38 and 56, you've got a chance now, because you've gotten your big man, to add to this team. And again, with free agency being what it is, and look, let's just be honest here. We talked about it, and we've talked about it in other sports. You're going to see the Bulls here really work hard to try and round out this roster to match what Tiago Splitter wants. And look, this is the other part of this. This is the other factor in all of this, is that we've got a coach and a general manager that to be honest with you, we haven't had. And I am just hopeful that this gives the Bulls the weapons that they need to go be aggressive tomorrow night and or Wednesday night. Reagan, good evening. And if they're able to do that, and the fact that they didn't have to give anything up here to get the big man, other than salary cap room, I'm okay with. I'm good with. I think that's smart. I think that makes sense. And for the Bulls, that look, Bryson Graham, this is his first draft with the Bulls. This is his first big move. And to not give up a draft pick, to not give up assets to get a big man that's averaged 11 points and 2 blocks, who's played at least 69 games, I'll take that right now. That's not a bad move to make. It's absolutely not a bad move to make. Bobby Marks says that this flexibility for Minnesota allows them to re-sign Ayo Dosunmu at the non-tax mid-level exception. And they've got $15 million available. Now the question is, does Ayo go back there? Or does Ayo want to maybe move out? Maybe come back to Chicago. Maybe try his luck somewhere else. Now, I will tell you this. The other thing that we were having technical issues last night galore. Just to be honest. Tonight we've had some, but they've been dropped considerably. So that's the good news. And for the record, we're still having issues here with TikTok. So, yay. But I mentioned, and I mentioned it during the NFL, and I'm going to mention it here during Major League Baseball and all the major sports. Make sure that when you're on social media, you're keeping track of who is reporting what. You want to go with reporters that you know and that you trust. And I try to follow Shams. Casey Johnson, TikToker, good evening. Casey Johnson, Joe, in terms locally for the Bulls. Joe Cowley, Casey Johnson, those guys. Because I've known them and I know how reputable they are. Mark Stein, Shams. When Woj was around, it was a Woj, right? It was Woj. It was Adrian Wojnarowski. I trust those guys. They're reputable. Some of the other things that I see on Twitter or X or TikTok, whatever, are just complete garbage. I saw somebody saying the Bulls were getting Giannis. And it's like, no, they're not. They're not in the sweepstakes. It's Miami and Boston at this point. And I don't know who lands him. I mean, it looks like Boston's the front runner. But according to published reports from some other reputable sources, there's a discrepancy in what they what they're asking for and what they're going to get. And I don't TikToker, I hope he goes to Miami. They need another star. They do need another star. Look, I think another team that isn't being talked about right now, and I'd be shocked if they weren't involved some way, shape, or form, is Golden State. Golden State needs a star. Steph Curry needs help, and I'm sorry, Jimmy Butler's not going to do it. Giannis would be a very good complement to Steph. So, just saying, that could be simply saying here. The other part of all of this for the draft. For the Bulls, they've got 4, they got 15, they got 38 and 56. Oh, TikToker, look, I'm not discounting at all what you're saying. Eric Spoelstra, I think, is one of the top, I'm going to say top 5 coaches in the game. I want to say he's top 3 in my mind. He's just that damn good of a coach. And if Miami were to ever get rid of him, I would absolutely want the Bulls to be all in on him. Monty says he goes to Miami. Milwaukee wants picks, not Jaylen Brown. Look, I think if you're giving up a quote-unquote superstar like Giannis, you're going to want a star back. You're going to want somebody back. But I am absolutely thinking here that if Giannis gets dealt, and if Milwaukee's dumb enough to do it within the conference, then that just tells me right then and there how bad they are at basketball IQ, or how little basketball IQ they have, because you're giving up a guy that will ultimately hurt you in the conference, no matter how many times you play him. He's going to hurt you. So why not allow him to hurt you only in the NBA Finals? If he's healthy enough to get there. And again, I don't believe that I don't believe if Giannis gets dealt within the Eastern Conference, I'm not going to be stunned by it, but I think that overall, it's a bad play by Milwaukee. I just don't, Yeah, and I know he's got contractual control, Monty, of where he goes. I get that, but I ultimately would think that Milwaukee, would say, hey, look, you're not going here in the conference, so get that out of your mind. But if that happens and he goes to Boston or Miami, I mean, look, if he goes to Miami, okay, let me preface it this way. Wherever he ends up, whether it's Miami or Boston or Golden State or the Clippers or the Lakers or Chicago, wherever, okay? He's not the same Giannis as he was. His career is not on the incline, right? It's on the decline. I do not believe that for what you would have to give up, for what you would have to give up, I don't believe that he's worth it. Now, if you can get him on the cheap, okay, fine. But if you can't, then you know what? I wouldn't do it. He's better than KD. Ooh, man. That's a hot take right there, TikToker. And Monty, I agree. They are a sinking ship. I'm not I'm not disagreeing with you. Only team trading for Giannis better be a piece away from a championship. And I don't think Miami is. I think Boston is, but if they give up Jaylen Brown, I don't like that. I think that's a bad move. So, look, I feel like, and again, this is just me talking, speculating from a fan's perspective, right? That you have the chance here to get somebody who's not on the the incline, right? They're on the decline. You better hope he plays 50 games for you. You got to hope that if you trade for him, especially if you have to give up any type of assets. In that regard, yes, Giannis is better because of availability. Yes. I just don't know. I just don't know. And look, it's been the story that won't go away. It's the equivalent. Okay, it's the NBA equivalent of the Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel story. It just won't go away. Just trade the guy, get it done with. That way, it's done. That way, there's nothing that we have to worry about anymore. We don't have to hear about it anymore. It can be done. And then at that point, once it's done, then we can focus on it, on other things in the NBA. But I'm saying this much. Right here and now, in the present, I don't know what value Giannis brings to a team anymore. Because he hasn't been Giannis for the last couple of years, in my opinion. Now, I might be basketball stupid, but I'd like to think I have a good read on things. And the fact that Giannis has struggled to stay healthy, much like Kevin Durant, he's not the Greek freak anymore. I'm sorry, he's just not. He hasn't been the Greek Freak for a number of years. But, I mean, look. I just don't know what this trade for him would accomplish if I'm Boston or Miami. Miami, I just think it adds another star there. I don't think they're close enough to win a title yet. I saw some reports earlier that said it was going to be a 3-team deal in Miami with them losing Tyler Hero and sending Tyler Hero to Detroit, and then Detroit sending somebody to Milwaukee, and then Milwaukee sending... And it's just stupid. So, I'm not a big Giannis guy. I'm not a big Kevin Durant guy. Out of the two, I think I would rather have Giannis just simply for the fact that he is available more-ish. If Durant misses 30 games, Giannis misses 35 to 40. I'm sorry. If Durant misses 40 games, Giannis is there for... Giannis maybe misses 30 to 35. So, sorry, I had to think about that one again. I'm just not a fan. Just not a fan. So we'll have to see what happens. Look, I'm not going to dispel anything at this point because it's the NBA. Anything can happen. But in terms of what we're looking at here for, what's coming up, with the draft being tomorrow night, anything is possible. All right, let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to discuss more about the NBA draft. We're also going to talk a little football because training camp schedules got released today. And I'm a little bit shocked at a couple of things. I'm just going to talk about that. Plus, we've got some Chicago Bears stadium news. And we'll just leave it at that. And with that, we'll be right back here on the Last Row Podcast. All right, let me ask you this question. When your favorite team is struggling, what's the first thing that fans say? Something's got to change, right? Well, if you've been walking through your house and thinking the same thing every time you see that old bathroom, that outdated kitchen, unfinished space, maybe this is your sign. Our friends at I Know a Guy Remodeling can help turn your home from rebuild mode into contender status. From kitchens and bathrooms to flooring, drywall, landscaping, renovation projects big or small, they do quality work and actually care about making sure it's done right. And as someone who values people you can trust, that matters. So if you're ready to stop talking about it and finally make a move, I implore you, I beg of you, go to our website, www.lastrowpodcast.com, because there you can find a link to I Know a Guy Remodeling's Facebook page. Because championship teams and championship homes are built the right way. And because everybody deserves to know a guy, and now you do. I Know a Guy Remodeling. All right, welcome back to the Last Row Podcast, a fan's perspective on sports, where it's real fans, real talk, front row to it all. Okay, so more thoughts here on this trade from Casey Johnson from Chicago Sports Network. This pending trade is essentially a free agent signing of a starting caliber center who has averaged 69 starts over the last 4 years. Claxton, 27, is a career 62% shooter and a solid lob threat who averaged almost 4 assists last season. Typically makes good decisions as a roll man, meaning the pick and roll. So there's that. Not a bad thought, right? Not a bad get for the Bulls. Okay, I want to talk here a little bit more NBA. Shams earlier on today had the breaking news about Trae Young and how he is signing a 4-year, $212 million deal to stay in Washington with the Wizards with a player option in year 4. Washington bid against themselves here. Nobody else, in my opinion, was going to pay Trae Young that amount of money. Unreliable, in some instances, unprofessional. Not somebody you can trust, in my opinion. And for Trae Young, he is getting this contract based upon, in my opinion, the thought or the element of, well, he's going to be healthy this season. The presumption that he'll be healthy. I don't like this. I don't like this move for them. I don't like the fact that they are pinning their hopes for the next 3, if not 4 years on Trae Young, whom, look, if you put a defender in front of him, he gets frustrated, he gets flustered very quickly. And for me, Trae Young is an attitude problem waiting to happen. And for a team like Washington that is trying to, reset themselves, and with having a high draft pick, the number 1 draft pick, mind you, the fact that they are looking at this in terms of paying for a guy that he's been an okay player. I'm not denying that, but he's not ideal. And he's not a good guy to have in your locker room. Jay Scott, good evening. He's not a good guy to have in the locker room in terms of mentoring a young, fresh point guard. And Monty, I agree. They have been one of the worst organizations by far for years. And without question, there is an absolute possibility that they did bid against themselves in order to keep him. And by doing so here, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. Especially with having the number 1 pick in the draft. Especially with having the number 1 pick. You don't need Trae Young. Yeah, does it give you an instantaneous score? Sure. Does it give you a bad locker room presence? You bet your bottom dollar it does. And you're going to be paying those bottom dollars to the tune of $212 million over 4 years. That's not good. Not good. All right. I want to talk here a little bit, if we can, because the NFL released earlier today the training camp schedules for all of the teams. And I will just say this much here. I'm a little bit shocked because I didn't expect the training camp schedules to be as late as they are. I would have thought for sure, like the first, like I remember a year ago going the third week of training camp. I think it was third week, maybe it was second week of training camp at the end of July. Training camp doesn't get underway this year until the end of July for the Chicago Bears. That surprised me. Either way, I want to just get that out there because it's coming. All right. Other breaking news that happened today that we haven't discussed yet. The Dallas Mavericks have found their head coach. And that head coach is former Michigan Wolverine head coach and NCAA champion Dusty May. Now, I'd heard rumors that May was looking to leave because of potentially NIL investigations. I can't confirm it or deny it. It's just something I've heard and seen. But I've also seen that Dallas was courting Jon Scheyer, the coach from Duke, who turned them down in typical Duke head coach fashion, following in his footsteps of Mike Krzyzewski. Dusty May, though, I think we can all agree he was going to go to the pros at some point. I just didn't think it was going to be this quickly. And again, that leads me to believe that maybe there is something here to the potential allegations at Michigan regarding the potential, sanctions that they could be facing. This is per Pete Thamel at ESPN. Players have a 15-day window now to transfer if they would like, now that he is leaving. And Michigan is working towards making Mike Boynton Jr. their interim coach. And again, per Pete Thamel, that's the direction that they're going. I've seen some people wanting them to bring back Juwan Howard, but no offense, been there, done that. He led Michigan, did Dusty May, to a 64-13 record over 2 seasons there. In his previous job, he led FAU to back-to-back NCAA tournaments, including the 2023 Final Four. He'd ruled out other college jobs this offseason, but the NBA has always been intriguing for Dusty May. Now, let's talk about this from a historical perspective, if we may. There have been a number of college coaches that have success in college that then go and try to make it in the NBA. Of those 10 coaches that have made that transition from college to the pros, only 2 of them have a winning record. Brad Stevens with the Boston Celtics at 354 wins, 282 losses. And Billy Donovan between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Chicago Bulls, 469 wins, 413 losses. The other coaches, John Calipari with the New Jersey Nets, 72-112. Rick Pitino in 2 different stints between the Boston Celtics and New York Knicks, 192 and 220. Lon Kruger In his stint with the Atlanta Hawks, he was the last college coach to do so. 69 and 122. Mike Montgomery with Golden State, 68 and 96. Reggie Theus with the Sacramento Kings, 44 and 62. Fred Hoiberg with the Chicago Bulls, 115 and 155. John Beilein, former Michigan head coach, going to Cleveland, 14 and 40. History is not on Dusty May's side here. And that's per bet MGM, by the way. I am not a fan of college coaches going into the pros. I'm just not. And Reagan, you're exactly right. Have to pick one and stay with it. College to pro almost never works. There have been two exceptions. Brad Stevens and Billy Donovan. That's been it. And Billy Ball has worked. Rick Pitino didn't work. John Calipari didn't work. Fred Hoiberg hasn't worked. All three of those guys, very, very, very good college coaches. I would argue two of the three are going to be college basketball Hall of Fame coaches in Pitino and Calipari. And more than likely NBA Hall of Famers, or Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, excuse me. But this move for Dusty May is not good, in my opinion. Now, he gets Cooper Flagg. Great. He gets Cooper Flagg. That's wonderful. I'm thrilled for him. But the fact that he is now the head coach in Dallas makes me think that something major is happening in Ann Arbor. And in my opinion, it's going to... And look, now Michigan becomes a prime opening. But they're signing Mike Boynton as the interim coach. Does that mean that they go out and look for somebody else in the meantime, like a Billy Donovan, maybe, who's looking for work? What better way than to go to the defending national champions? But if there's a scandal brewing in Ann Arbor with the basketball program, that's a problem. And for the Michigan faithful, I don't believe that they saw this coming. I think in a few years, yes, but not after 1 year. Which, again, lends me to believe that there's something happening there. And yes, Reagan, you're exactly right. The turnover is insane at Michigan. Absolutely insane. And again, I believe that overall, you have an opportunity now if you're Michigan. Yes, you can have Mike Boynton as the interim coach. But if you have the opportunity to bring in a Billy Donovan, college basketball Hall of Famer, multiple-time national championship winning coach, could you see a scenario where Billy Donovan goes to Michigan? I could, absolutely. Pony up big money. Now, if there's a scandal brewing and an investigation happening, then probably not. But if there's no investigation happening, then I think you've got a chance. If they go that route. If they don't, fine. But I just have a sneaking hunch that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And the track record with Michigan, not good. So we'll have to see what this means. Now, in terms of Dusty May with the in terms of him going to Dallas, I'm a little bit surprised that that's where he wanted to go. But if you look at it in terms of what you have there in Dallas with Cooper Flagg, look, you have one of the most exciting players, young players in the NBA in Cooper Flagg. And I think that, look, if I just wonder here. I mean, because they have to, Dallas has to end up with a big man here, whether it's Yaxel, Morez, or Mara. I mean, right? I mean, the most sense to me, at least, would be the guy that he had at Michigan, right? Ade Mara. That makes the most sense to me. Yeah, and Reagan, you're right. It's not awful. It's not horrible. But depending on what they do in the draft, if they move back and get more picks, okay. If they get a small forward from Chicago to help the development of Cooper Flagg, okay. I wouldn't be opposed to that, because then that would mean the Bulls get the 6th pick. But, Anthony, good evening. Yep, we've been talking about the NBA here most of the night. Yes, sir. The fact, though, that he is now the coach in Dallas makes me think they got to go big man here, right? And they got to have, I mean, it's got to be either Yaxel, Morez, or Mara, I would think. And I'm just wondering here what that could be. And Reagan, I agree with you. But if you can get a collection of picks like the Bulls have done here in the 2nd round, that ultimately means you could move up. And I think that's the goal. But in terms of what Dallas is trying to do, to me, it's going to be very interesting to say or to see how this plays out. Because, I mean, look, if you look at the Michigan job, it's one of the best jobs, right? Absolutely, it's one of the best jobs in the country. Can't argue with that. But if you look at UConn with Danny Hurley, he's turned down pro jobs. John Shire has turned down pro jobs at Duke. Tom Izzo at Michigan State has turned them down. Look, those top 3 right there. I mean, I would say those are the best top 3 in the college game right now. I think John Calipari's on that list. Todd Golden at Florida. Calvin Sampson at Houston. TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State, I believe. But again, I'm just saying this. And I agree, Michigan will never be a bad job. I agree, Reagan. But if there are sanctions coming, then he did the basketball equivalent of Jim Harbaugh in leaving, which I don't blame him. if there was something shady going on behind the scenes, I don't blame him one bit for leaving. Get your payday, right? Escape while you can. Take the old Steve Miller Band song, take the money and run, right? Good evening, Breakdown. How are you? And Monty, I agree. A lot of the guys are tired of the NIL being out of control. I will agree with that. I will absolutely agree with that. But the fact that he's going to Dallas with Cooper Flagg, with Kyrie, potentially a top 10 pick, look, I think it's a great opportunity for him. History's not on his side. I mean, again, you look at, out of the 10 college coaches that have made that jump, only 2 have winning records. Billy Donovan and Brad Stevens. That's it. All the meanwhile, you have guys like John Calipari and Rick Pitino. And college basketball Hall of Famers that struggled in the NBA. I'm just saying, history doesn't look good. Or isn't on his side, we'll say. All right. Now, let's talk here for a moment, if we can, about the Chicago Bears and the stadium. And what I will tell you is this. Over the weekend, in talking to some people that I know, Politico is reporting, and Politico is a huge politics insider, whatever you want to call it, okay? That drafting work is underway on legislative language that would help facilitate a deal between Arlington Heights and the team. And the Bears are actively involved in this. This goes back to what I was saying a few weeks ago when they released the statement saying, "Oh, we're coming to Indiana, or we're going to continue this pursuit of the stadium in Indiana." This goes back to what I was saying. And that's this. The Bears do not want to leave Illinois. They bought Arlington Heights for one reason. Not to have a retail development there. No. But to have an 80,000 seat or 85,000 seat domed stadium that they will own. And I'm just telling you this. Do not be shocked if at some point in the next few weeks that they are calling a special session of the Illinois legislature down to Springfield to vote and pass the bill that will get the Bears the stadium in Arlington Heights. The fact that the Bears are actively involved now at this point in writing the bill's language tells me this. Behind the scenes, the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, who knows, if he lets the Chicago Bears leave Illinois, his dream of going to the White House is all but done. So Pritzker, the Chicago Bears brass, and I'm sure probably the NFL, to be completely honest with you, all got together and said, all right, let's figure out how the hell to get this thing done. We've been going at this for 5 years. Let's get it done. So now, and as I said a few weeks ago when everything broke about, we're going to continue with this information, this stadium search in Hammond. I said to everybody at that point in time, they do not have a location in Hammond that they can build on yet. The Lost Marsh golf course that they were going to build on, they cannot build on due to the Army Corps of Engineers in Indiana having a 50-year easement on that property, meaning nothing can be built from the early 2000s until the mid-2050s on that site. Nothing can be built there. So therefore, the area where they were going to build, right there by Wolf Lake in Hammond, Indiana, that site is not viable until at least 2055. That is why this whole thing has been an absolute farce for Indiana. And say what you want about Kevin Warren and how piss poor of a job he's done, because let's call it what it is. He's trying to save his job right now. Monty says only difference for Pritzker is if they get the stadium, he concedes nomination in New Hampshire instead of Iowa. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell either way, Monty, of getting the nomination. But he at least then has the Chicago Democrats behind him. If Indiana, Reagan says, if Indiana had a serious location, they would have put a deadline on their offer. I agree. That's why I said previously, there's not a viable spot in Indiana. The land in Gary that they were looking at is a toxic dump. Wolf Lake, there's a 50-year easement. They don't have a spot in Indiana yet. And everybody's freaking out saying they're going to leave Illinois. No, they're not leaving Illinois yet. They have until their lease expires at Soldier Field 2033. Now, will they get a deal done between now and 2033? Yes. I sure as hell hope so. That'll be 7 years from now, and I will be 51 years old at that point. And they better have a new stadium and or a Super Bowl win between now and then. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do. But anyway, the fact that they have the land already purchased in Arlington Heights. They've already done the land study. They've already done the environmental study. They've already done the traffic study. It just makes sense, folks. They're not going to Indiana. And if they do, it's because they couldn't get anything done with the state of Illinois. And the way it looks right now, they are getting work done with the state of Illinois. So don't be shocked if there's a legislative session. Because team officials, Illinois officials are working behind the scenes to get a deal done. Illinois still has a chance. And Politico has said the following. After weeks of public posturing, the conversation is moving again. Discussion between the Bears and Illinois officials are continuing behind the scenes, with some expecting greater clarity as soon as Wednesday. The Bears are working on legislation that could keep them in Illinois. That's something Governor J.B. Pritzker emphasized last week, that there would be no special legislative session addressing the Bears without a deal in place. Message received. Rather than waiting for lawmakers to craft a solution, the team has been asked to identify precisely what legislative language it wants. Drafting work is underway, according to a person close to the discussions. I'm just telling you. They're the largest landowner in Arlington Heights and in Cook County, Illinois. There is absolutely no way, shape, or form that they are leaving Illinois to go back, or there's no way they're leaving Illinois to go to Indiana. There's none. They don't have the land in Indiana. They don't. They have Arlington Heights, the Arlington Racecourse, which was for years owned by Churchill's Downs. The Bears purchased the land, and now they own that property. It only makes sense. 320 plus acres to build an entertainment district around the new Bears Stadium. It just makes too much sense. And that's why I believe that the Bears are going to move forward with a stadium. Tim, good evening. With a stadium in Arlington Heights. It just makes sense. It just makes too much sense. And quite honestly, with that, the Bears have the fact that they're working behind the scenes with Illinois lawmakers. I guarantee you, the governor, the commissioner, the owner of the Bears, and probably the president, Kevin Warren, all were involved. And look, if there's clarity coming up as quickly as Wednesday per Politico, that tells me right then and there, we could have a special session called before training camp. And therefore, you could have, theoretically, shovels in the ground right around the start of the preseason. They've already got the land. They can get the infrastructure passed with the legislatures. Again, and Monty, I agree. When it makes too much sense, there's worry. I get it. But I'm telling you, Indiana is not a viable option for them. George McCaskey doesn't have the guts to move the team to Indiana. There would be too big of a backlash, number one. Number two, the family is too cheap to do that. Okay? So you mean to tell me you're going to drive from Lake Forest, Illinois, to Hammond, Indiana? Doesn't make sense. Lake Forest is not that far from Arlington Heights. That makes more sense. So, again, I believe the Bears are staying in Illinois. I've said that from the start. I don't. Do I trust Illinois lawmakers? No. Do I trust Kevin Warren? No. Oh, Monty, I don't agree with that at all. They've said they're going to have shovels in the ground here. They've already got the environmental studies have already been done on Arlington Heights. The zoning and permitting, they had that done when they destroyed or when they tore down, when they demolished the remaining parts of the racetrack. So I guarantee you, they're going to fast track the zoning and permits for building. The environmental studies have already been done at Arlington Heights. So I'm just saying. And once this thing gets moving in Illinois, it's going to snowball. They're going to fast track that. They're going to get it done quick. Now, the build might not be done until 2030. And quite honestly, that's probably when they would be looking to break their lease with Soldier Field and the Chicago Park District. But then at that point in time, you're going to have the NFL already having stuff booked there for a Super Bowl. You're going to have NCAA already having stuff booked there for the Final Four. You could have the Big Ten title game there now instead of Indianapolis. So I mean, look, there's just so much revenue that they could generate at that point. They're going to fast track this. They're going to fast track it. Worst case scenario, does it mean shovels in the ground mid-fall? Okay, sure. But realistically, could they break ground at Arlington Heights tomorrow? Yes, they could. Because all of the other studies have been done. Everything is ready to go. They literally have to pull the permits for building and zoning, get the infrastructure deal passed with the state, which is what is holding everything up right now. Once it does that, then you're going to see the build happen. They've already got drawings for it, for Arlington Heights. They already know it. There's just too much that's happened for Arlington Heights not to be the place. All right. That's going to put a bow on this edition of the Last Row Podcast. Again, we will be back with you tomorrow night for the NBA Draft, for our NBA Draft coverage. I cannot wait to be back with you. We were together for the NFL Draft. I look forward to be with you here at the NBA Draft. Yes, Monty, according to Kevin Warren, he said they had traffic studies done last August for Arlington Heights. So that's per the Bears team president. So he said he had studies in his hand. I want to thank you for listening. If you are with us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please continue to like, please continue to subscribe, to leave a rating. We would greatly appreciate that. If you're with us on TikTok, stick around for the overtime. If you are with us on X or YouTube Live, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, meaning tomorrow night when breaking news changes everything, I'll see you in the last row.